Welcome to the Mission-Led Mama podcast, where motherhood becomes a spiritual initiation and your mission is the medicine the world's been waiting for. I'm your host, Natalie Kataya, devoted mama, light language queen, and multi-seven-figure entrepreneur, here to guide you through the wild, the beautiful dance of raising babies while birthing empires. In this space, there's nothing off the table. The tears, the triumphs, the quantum leaps, and the late nights of wondering who you're becoming. As we dive deep into the divine feminine as business, as sacred service, spiritual expansion, conscious partnership, and leading with love. This isn't just a podcast, it's a remembrance, a recalibration, a homecoming for women who knew they came here to change the world and tuck their babies into bed. Welcome home, Mission-Led Mama. Hello, my beautiful babes, and welcome back to the Mission-Led Mama podcast. Guys, babes, mothers, oh my goodness, I am so blessed to bring this beautiful soul sister to you all. This woman is so inspirational. I feel like she's the only other mother that I have met yet to date that has done the exact same path as I. So we both free birthed, we both stand for it, we both live and breathe it, we both are huge advocates for trusting yourself, trusting your intuition, trusting your body, trusting that the divine masculine and feminine of you and your partner are there in sovereignty and unity to bring your baby earth side. And then we both are huge advocates for lotus birthing. And what lotus birthing means is keeping the placenta on until your child sovereignly chooses for the disconnect. And then that way, the baby is choosing this versus we having any intervention, guys. And then the next process is actually having a beautiful baby outside the system. And what I mean by that is there is a matrix grid right now that is literally frequency holding the earth. And then what this beautiful woman does is she takes people out of the system. She helps all sovereign families get passport for their children. It is so incredible. We are about to invest in her. I'm so grateful. So she's going to be our mentor, guys, which is so cool. So we will drop all the show notes down, like all her links down below. I want to welcome beautiful Veda to our podcast. Thank you for being the first person on our podcast. So welcome back.
Yay! It's so good to be here. So good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. So I'd love you to share to everyone who you are, what you actually do, your whole entire journey, babe, and don't leave anything out. Tell everyone everything.
Oh, that's loaded. Okay, where to begin? Well, my name's Veda.
Hello.
And I'm a mom of two boys. I'm married. To a wonderful man. My journey's been a journey. Where do I begin with the journey? Because you know how the journey, you don't realize there's certain things that are setting you up for the future, that your future self essentially is kind of guiding you down the little bits. But I would say really my real journey starts with me being a really good law-abiding citizen, tax-paying, good groomed, how the system grooms you, like straight A student. I was like the one. And you kind of don't, that path works. It's great until it burns you.
Yeah.
So I got burned by the system pretty good, just like in a health crisis. Really, the health crisis for me was what really woke me up. And I'm really grateful for that health crisis because that was what really started leading me down to the truth about the medical system and big pharma and all these different things, which then ultimately prepared me for then when I got pregnant. Yeah. So instead of just trusting the doctors, at least I was savvy enough at that point to say, okay, maybe that's not the best thing for me. So, but luckily at that point too, because I had spent my whole life outsourcing my authority to doctors, and then the system burned me. That finally was what led me to insourcing and asking self and realizing, just having this whole realization that our bodies are actually perfect. And they're communicating to us, and all they know how to do is heal. All they know how to do is help adapt for us, love us, whatever. So I had to come back to myself, loving myself. And so luckily when I did get pregnant, I was able to, instead of asking doctors, well, what should I do? I was able to ask my baby and say, what should I do? I don't know anything about pregnancy. I don't know anything about birth, like honestly, because all my friends, everyone I really knew had just done the thing. You do the hospital birth, whatever. And
You get your
um
scans, you go to the doctors, you go to the hospital, you get checkups, you be in the system, right? Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so honestly, with my first, I did. So I was like, okay, midwives are better than doctors, right? So I like went to the hospital with midwives, and it was like very clear that there was no difference, absolutely no difference. So I remember sitting with my husband. I'm like, I don't know what the path is, but I do know so deep in my soul that if I continue here, I'm going to disappoint myself so big.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so glad that either your higher self or you came in and you were like, hold on a second, this doesn't feel right. And you trusted that. Because I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing with pregnancy. And like, we actually do trust our bodies, but then of course everyone outsources their power to the medical system. And then that connection is the first thing that stops women trusting themselves. When you said, I actually love that you just said before, our bodies know how to heal. What a fucking affirmation. Like, what a fucking powerful statement to live by. Our body knows how to heal. Love it.
Yes. And that's like all it knows how to do. Because I did. I spend my whole life thinking my body was like attacking itself and being mad at my body. And like, anyway, that was a whole unlearning, relearning,
Yes.
I'm grateful I got to enjoy. I didn't enjoy it at the time, but I'm grateful I got to learn that lesson
Yeah.
before the next lesson I got to learn.
Yeah, I
It
love it.
prepared me for sure. But yeah, I had disappointed myself in a million different ways in my life. And suddenly this new baby that was relying on me, it was like, hey, I need to like hold the phone. There's no more disappointing. There's no more room for that.
Baby. Yeah.
So that's when I started kind of my daily ritual, I want to say, where I would sit in the shower and I would just connect with my baby and I would say, guide me to what you need. And then I would just put it down and I would know that the guidance was coming. And of course, the guidance came in all the different ways. So I know people get guidance in all, some people hear things, some people just feel affirmations. For me, I guess I just knew that when something was presented, that was where I was supposed to go. So like I at the time I was working as a dental hygienist, and I'd have a patient that would come in and they'd say something or introduce me to some, like whatever, all the things. I was scrolling on my Instagram, random things would pop up. I actually remember scrolling on Instagram and something popped up from someone I didn't even follow. I don't know how I followed this person, honestly. And it was straightforward. It was like, if you're pregnant, you need to look up lotus birth. And I was like, whoa, okay, there was my, okay, let me start looking this up. So it led me down rabbit holes and rabbit holes. And I just trusted, like, okay, I'm going to research this. This was my baby. That's how they were communicating with me. And truly unleash the truth about the business of birth and our ancestral lineage, and how important it was for us to learn our own birth story. And how if we don't unveil that, we're essentially just kind of like passing down this trauma cycles. Man, yeah, I mean, there was so much to unpack just with him. So yeah, I started learning my own birth story. I started reclaiming my own birth, which was so interesting that I didn't even know my own birth story when I got pregnant. I thought that was like so interesting that a lot of us don't. I was asking my friends, it's like, oh, seems so like that's not important to people, which is so crazy because it's so foundational, and how that's like the blueprint of your entire life.
Yes.
It's crazy we've lost it. So anyway, luckily my baby revealed that to me, where he was like, listen, you need to learn your own birth story. You actually need to learn your moms and your grandmas and your great grandmas and start connecting ancestrally and start connecting with them and seeing what they've passed down, good and not so good, so that it can come to consciousness, and a lot of things can be seen, heard, witnessed, and then released. Otherwise, I recognized that if I didn't do that, I was just going to be this repeating cycle, and it was up to him. And I guess this awareness of like, is someone free if they're just being dumped on emotionally, and then the kid gets to be the one that has to heal it?
Oh my God, I love this. Oh my God. Oh my God, I love it. The thing is, it's like there's so much ancestral lineage that comes with everything, but at some point it's like one of us has to choose to be the cycle breaker that chooses literally to do all the healing and then rewrite a new story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it just like didn't sit with me to be like, oh, I'll just leave that for him to do. Like, no, it was a very clear, this is your mission. And I do feel like the more I'm working in this space, the more moms and families I'm meeting, it seems to be a very common mission amongst our generation.
Yeah.
For our generation, we're lucky enough to we see the darkness.
Yeah.
We were born, I want to say, in the darkness, and we are the alchemizers.
Yes.
And now these moms that are alchemizing all of this are the ones that are having babies coming through them, because these babies coming through have a mission to usher in a whole new era of freedom. And they need mothers and fathers, conscious fathers specifically, that are going to listen, because they need to come in a very specific way. So yeah, it was very clear, this mission that was coming through to me. It's like, okay, release all this stuff so I can bring this baby in pure. And they needed to be untouched. They needed to be, I don't know, just learning the whole business of birth and realizing that it is all, the system's not broken. I thought it was broken for a long time. And I realized that the system's actually perfect. It's working perfectly. And within that perfect system, the outcomes of what's happening is the exact outcome they're wanting. They want traumatized moms having babies, traumatizing those babies, so they keep coming back, and we're married to this system in this like Stockholm syndrome way. So I was like, I need to be out of the system as far as I can. And at that time, so with my first baby, I found a midwife, and she was great. I actually didn't even know about free birth until I was like 36 weeks. And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, there's people having babies like out of the system.
Yeah, babe. Oh my God, I can't wait to tell you my journey after this. This is so great.
I can't wait to hear. It's like the journey that these babies lead you on is like, oh my gosh, this unpacking of discovery. I actually did sit with my midwife, and I was like, okay, I think I actually want to have a free birth. But that, she was amazing and wonderful in every way. But she was licensed.
Yeah.
And she heard me though, and she was like, you know what? She could just see how intentional I was about everything I wanted to do with my birth. And she was like, I'm happy to be in the hallway if that's like how you want to have this baby. Cause I was like, no one touches my baby. No, just knowing every person at your birth is an intervention with their beliefs and their feelings and whatever. So luckily I did have a midwife that did really respect that. I hear 1,000 times a day how many midwives will tell women that and then bait and switch at the last second. So I do feel very fortunate. But yeah, after I had this like beautiful baby, it was just, me and my husband, he caught it. No one touched anything. It was like so awesome and perfect. Afterwards, it was time for the birth certificate. And I had spent my entire pregnancy unpacking everything about birth, unpacking all these other things that it was like, like my gut like had a pit in it. Okay. I was like, I didn't spend time researching this. I had seen a few things about the birth certificate, but certainly not enough to raise a baby outside the system. And I'm not sure how it is in Australia or what the time frame is, but where I live specifically, they were like, you have 10 days. And you have to know that like postpartum, like you are not even on planet Earth yet. No. And for sure, that is the reason why they're like, here, sign these legal documents when you're like not even, your feet aren't even on the ground.
Fully. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So anyway, I filled out the information. I never signed it just because that like made me feel better. But as I've learned later, acquiescence is consent. That is the consent.
Is a consent. Yeah, it's fucked.
So yeah. So there was my first, and I knew when my next baby was coming through, they were very clear that like, you're going to spend your time, now that you've unpacked birth, you're going to get to spend your entire pregnancy learning how to raise me without a birth certificate. Yes. So that's what I got to do with my next pregnancy. That was like very conscious, wild pregnancy, the whole bit. It was very, the words that kept coming through him to me as I connected with him from the very beginning, where I need to be born free. And in that being born free, like I didn't even take a pregnancy test because I was like, hey, I'm fully insourcing. I'm not going to make anything tell me outside of me what I know, you know? So that was really beautiful. It was really powerful, and it was cool to just, trust him through the guidance of what I was finding, what I was uncovering. I did not know that would lead me down a path of studying law and everything legal and start, buying a law dictionary. That was very all unexpected, but yeah, that's really essentially what he brought me to, was this amazing, beautiful free birth. And raising him without the birth certificate, I was able to find out how to get the passport without the birth certificate, which was a really, really important thing for me, just because the passport seemed to be the key to all opportunities. And I didn't want to be a mom that kept him from opportunities. Like, I didn't want to be like, well, I don't want to get you a birth certificate, so you can't go to school. You can't do any of these different things. You can't travel, which travel is our whole life. So I was able to figure out how to get a passport without the birth certificate and do it based on his nationality instead of citizenship. And that was kind of the key to, that's really everything. If he wants to drive, if he wants to get a driver's license, if he chooses to do that, really, really everything, the passport was that. So that's kind of why I made it my mission to help other families navigate that system as well. Because a lot of mothers and fathers, like I said, they're feeling this calling, they're getting the clear calling from their baby saying, hey, I need to be born this way. And here we are doing it. And it's so exciting for me. I was like, hey, well, the amount of tears I had on my own journey trying to figure this out, because a lot of people are out there talking about the problem, but there really weren't any people talking about the solution. There's a lot of people talking about status correcting too, which great, wonderful, but I was like, knowing what I know, I can't do that in the first place.
Can we just go back? What is status correcting?
So status correcting essentially is a birth certificate, really what it is it's a, how do we explain? It's a contract first and foremost. And within that contract, it essentially creates a business. And that business is really owned by the government. So in the United States, we have a social security number. What is it in Australia?
It's called a tax file number here. So as soon as you are born, you get a tax file number, which we, like Warren and I, we always say that it's like, you know how a cow has like a piercing here? It's like, this is your number, your cattle get in line. So,
yes.
And of course that over here is as soon as they take the placenta, then they actually own you, because it's the first, like the first living entity is the placenta. And so that they take that, right? It's like, there's so many intricacies. So we learned a lot as well. And just like honoring you, babe, like just honoring everything that you do. And I want to there's so many pieces here that I want to break down and move. So everyone listening right now, I know that there's a lot of you listening right now that are in fear of like, well, what if they can't travel? And what if their babies can't get their license? And what if they can't get out loans and they can't buy houses or whatever it might be? Now, we own lots of properties, and Warren's whole entire life is properties. And for us, we will buy a property under Godwin's name. And it's like that we're actually able to do that in the private sector. So there's so many different ways around it that people just don't know about. So today in this podcast, you will learn the pieces. And then I honestly, I welcome you, I initiate you, I invite you to go and watch Veda's stuff and actually go and invest in her courses and learn about it, because there is so much information and you've done it for everyone. So just want to like take the time now to actually just like drop into like absolute gratitude and honoring you for actually walking this path, because it's funny, right? Very similar to your second baby. I was walking and I heard, Mum, my name's Godwin. And so I messaged Warren, was like, we have a baby boy and his name's Godwin. And Warren was like, nah, that's not his name. And I'm like, no, it is. He is God and he will always win. That's it.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Energetic. And then also too, like the etymology of his name is that he is walking with God meaning universe, guys, versus like God Christianity. But the walking, like he's here to walk this massive mission. And so I knew, very similar to you, that I'd done all this ancestral work, all this self-development, all this inner work, looking at I actually knew how I was birthed because mum is actually very open about the whole birth thing. And my mum has randomly birthed two people have randomly come to her and she's just like caught the baby basically.
That's amazing.
I actually believe in some other universe my mum's been a doula or she's been one of those other mothers that has sat in tribes and just held babies. Like my mum is such a mother, like such a mother archetype. And so of course, when I told mum and dad that I wanted to home birth, they were like, cool, do what you want, how exciting. And mum's also always walked the path of just being a little bit differently as well, which is super cool. So she, of course, then birthed me into the world, who has done things the absolute different way to every single person in the whole entire world. They say left, I say right, always. They say black, I say white, always, And so I hear Godwin, my mum, my name's Godwin, and I'm like, I'm pregnant. Holy fuck. But I actually remember the night we were having sex and our babies were there, like in spirit realm, and I was like to Warren, get off me, the babies want to come through. And
Wow.
just connected. We've been connected. So we were friends for 3 years, and then we had a split for a couple of years, and then we reconnected. But we were only together for 3 months. Like we were fresh in our relationship, and so we're fresh in our relationship. We're rooting like rabbits every single day. But this one day, I was like, just stop. And then when we had sex, I was like, and he, just for some actual context for everyone, he did not come inside me. But I knew in that moment that we had made a baby. And I rolled over and I was like, oh, we just made a baby. So then
Wow.
a few weeks later, Godwin came through and was like, Mum, my name's Godwin. And I was like, oh my God. And then the same thing, I was like, holy fuck, okay. And so I was like, we put 2 pregnancy tests back to back. They both said yes. My next level, babe, you just inspired me. My next level is not even looking at a pregnancy test because that's hilarious. I love the trust. You're like, I don't even need a pregnancy test, people. I know my body. That's it. Like that's.
But that's amazing though that it's like it confirmed your knowing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like the pregnancy test is what confirms that it's not real until it is. You know what I mean? Or an ultrasound says so or whatever. I think that's amazing. Wow.
And then it was like I had all the dreams. Like I had all these random dreams, and then we had all these people say to us, like, "Are you pregnant? Are you guys pregnant? Are you guys pregnant?" And of course we were like, "Yeah, we are." Ha ha ha. And then instantly, as soon as I started connecting with Godwin, it was like, of course I'm going to home birth. And then I engaged 2 doulas actually, because for me, I really love education. I love learning. I'm sure your highest value of growth as well. Like I just love learning stuff. So I hired a birth keeper and I hired a doula. So the birth keeper, she like sets the energetics of holding the energetics, and then the doula, she does a lot of body work. So I had these 2 women that had incredible expertise, and I said the same thing to them. I don't want you to talk at my birth. I don't want you to be anywhere in the oracle field of either 3 of us. I don't want you to say anything or give me any advice. I want my body to fully do everything I know that my body can do. Like I know my body can birth. I know exactly how to birth. I'm just going to trust my channel. And just like so many beautiful pieces happened. So yeah, I was probably 32 weeks when I heard I want to be out of the system. And I keep hearing I want to be out of the system. And it gives me goosebumps even now. And I said to Warren, you're not going to like this, because Warren can be quite 3D sometimes. Like he can play by the rule book, especially because like he loves properties, and he's I've of course been like, hey, all these conspiracies. But at the start when I first met him, he had like heard about it, and of course he didn't get vaccinated and all those things. That's great. But I'm way more down the rabbit hole. And so I said to him, you're not going to love this, but Godwin wants to be born sovereign. No birth certificates. And he's like, oh, Natalie. He's like, really and he's like, the Illuminati are going to come after you. I was like, good, let them come after me. I was like, here's the, yeah, I'm like, bring it.
Yes.
I trust that we have created such a pathway of, changing all our ancestral lineage to get to a point where they are bringing the new earth. So we have to facilitate their highest vibration. Like I believe that these children that are coming in are actually anchoring in the 5D new earth, and they're so incredibly successful in vibration, like successful in light. Their light is so much bigger than ours. And so we, of course, can hold their light, but they're going to be showing us a whole new pathway. And it's
Yes.
like they've got to write this story. We are just there as the parents holding the container for it. So however or whatever they create in this lifetime, I feel like we're just here to hold the space. And yeah, like we then were like, okay, cool. Like, how do we do this? And then of course, I was like, the spirit, show me a way. Like, if I'm meant to do this fully sovereignty, I trust. We've got also other friends, like I was saying to you prior to the podcast, we've got other friends that are super in the sovereignty space. Like, they all own charities and everything's done outside the system, and they brought back their birth certificates and all these cool things. So we'd already learned a lot of their language and lingo and all the things. And then I said to Spirit, like, show me how I do this. And Warren messaged me and was like, look at this chick. She speaks your language. Like, she's the only person I've ever met that speaks your language, Nat. So I'm stalking you, right? And I'm like, fuck, this chick is cool. And mind you, we had already bought a Lotus bag ages ago, because when I looked on the internet, the only Lotus bag that I liked the look of and that had everything in it was this Veda bag. So I was like, I'm buying this Veda bag. It's cute, it's beige, has all the things that I need. And then Warren puts two and two together. He's like, do you reckon you've bought her Lotus bag? And I'm like, holy fuck. So it's just this incredible synchronistic thing of like, of course, we've already got her Lotus bag. Of course, she's going to teach us sovereignty. Of course, like, it's going to connect. And so it's just been this beautiful unraveling, babe, of watching your journey. And I've even seen your Instagram's blown up as well. So, like, congratulations on, like,
Thank you.
you anchor into your mission, right? The deeper spirit's like, here's more clients, here's more clients, here's more clients.
Yeah. Well, that's honestly how it's been. Like just like you were saying, we are the containers, and honestly, it's so exciting because my daily, like, what I get to do every day is to talk to families just like you that are saying, hey, my baby's saying I need to do this, and I don't know, I'm just listening.
Yeah.
And so seeing so clearly how these babies truly are, they're coming in with a clear mission, and they're coming to mothers and fathers that are listening. And it's like this, we truly are, the whole earth is being liberated as we're speaking. Like, it's so exciting how,
It's so cool.
I mean, a lot of people can look at what's happening within the systems right now and be in fear. And that's easy to be in fear because they want you. They know we're creators of our reality, right? So they want us sitting in fear. And honestly, if I'm being totally transparent, I used to believe in doomsday. I actually was afraid to have kids because I was like, why would I ever bring a kid into this world that is literally on fire?
Yeah.
Why would I do that? And once I got pregnant, I had to completely change my lens on things, because at that point now I was like, I can no longer subscribe to that. And now I need to create a world that I want my children to grow up in. I get to create. So I'm seeing a whole bunch of other creators doing the same thing. And that doomsday is not my reality. We're seeing the system crumble. Yes, that's true, but it's not a bad thing. It's actually really exciting because now we're ushering in the new. So the old does have to crumble. Honestly, it can't be fixed because it's perfect. Like I was saying.
Oh my God, babe, I love this. I have a mentor and we do this big process called, it goes into like how everything's perfect, whole and complete. So we look at the positive of everything and the negative of everything. And like, if we also know that there is a law of balance always playing out, there has to be that yin and yang that plays out. And this system is so fucked but also in the same breath, it's so perfect because it's allowed us to now get to this point of us actually taking our power back, of us actually making a difference. And yeah, I'm just so fucking proud of you. So I would love for you to tell everyone, the people that are listening to this right now, thinking to themselves, how the fuck can they do this and it be legal? Can we go into some like finer details of how you basically create the passport so that these children still do have every right in the 3D realm as well?
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So this is an interesting question that you say. So first we have to think, like, what did people do before birth certificates?
Yes. Good one. Oh my God. Well, they were
You know
just
what I mean?
human, right?
Yeah, we had records of birth and we passed them down. Like, you can look back on your lineage generations and generations and generations. And I don't know years specifically in Australia, but in the United States, birth certificates weren't standard across the board until 1933.
Wow.
That's not that long ago.
Oh my gosh.
Really not that long. Like, how in the world did we survive without birth certificates before then?
And without a scan. That's what I always think. Well, it's like, there was no scans forever, people. You don't need a scan. Because the
Right?
first thing people always say to me is like, oh, how's the scan? Or when are you next seeing your doctor? I'm like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? I'm not going there. Yeah.
Right? Well, there is so much of this, and I love what you're saying too, because like, to me, I think, okay, I want to say my baseline went to, how did my pristine ancient ancestors live? And I'm not talking about the fake history that we've been taught, that we like evolved from cavemen and that we are these enlightened versions of, it's actually the opposite. We have pristine ancestors that lived connected to God, to source, to nature, to all of this stuff. To me, I'm like, okay, those are the ancestors I'm connecting with, which is what my baby was trying to get me to, like, hey, go back in your lineage and really connect, because it's in your bloodline. You already know. We all come from free birthing mothers and mothers that were barefoot on the ground. And to me, I'm like, hey, how did they live? Well, did they cut the umbilical cord, or did they trust that was part of the divine process too?
Yeah.
All of that. So just even going back to like, okay, so birth certificates are actually a very modern thing. What did they do before? They kept records, you guys. They kept family Bibles. And we all think a family like a Bible is some like religious thing, and actually it's not. It's record keeping of families. So, but what is interesting is in the legal world, the Bible, the actual Bible is seen in law as records. So when you add your family's record to it as well, it is legal. It is a record. It just goes in with it. Actually, the laws actually go along with our religious freedom. And I think people get confused with organized religion and religion, meaning like, what are my deeply held convictions?
Yeah.
That's really what religion is, and how you can create your own ministry. And we all should be ministers of our own affairs. We all have that authority and power, but we've been outsourcing it to organized religion, that's a whole other story in itself. But yeah, so what we're doing is we can create our own private records. Most people don't know that there's an entire private realm and there's a public realm, and the birth certificate created a public realm. It created a business. Like I was saying, that the government has property. The government owns that number. That we aren't the birth certificate either. So a lot of people, I guess I want to back up a little bit too.
Yeah, please do.
And say, no matter what, even if you have a birth certificate, you're sovereign. You were born sovereign. You actually just have to remember who you are, and remember that you're not that entity that the government tricked you into thinking you are. This all actually started making sense when I became a business owner. None of this made sense when I was just working a W-2 job. Or I don't know what they call it in Australia, but just like when you're getting paid normally from your employer, I was working for an employer. And then when I became a business owner, and you get a business and that business has its own number and you're showing up as an agent of that business, it suddenly just started making sense. That's what we've been doing this entire time with the birth certificate. We are agents of that business.
Yes.
We don't own that business though. The government owns that business. So everything that we buy attached to that tax identification number, the government actually owns. That's why when we do die, it goes through probate and it goes through judges, and they all get to decide what is done with our estate or our assets, because they own it all. We've been claiming to be incompetent. We've just been showing up as agents of that business, but not actually claiming that business. We never owned that business in the first place. So that we actually can do this privately, living beings actually cannot be owned.
Yes.
That's why they had to create the birth certificate, so they could own us. Do this. Essentially voluntary servitude, but without us knowing. So, just going back to what living beings do is they create records, and they keep those records, and they pass those records down, and the government actually does acknowledge those records because that still stands true. It's interesting because I help families create their private records. And sometimes I say, well, these private records replace the birth certificate, but that's actually not true because the birth certificate tried to replace the private records.
Yes, well, that came first, right? Of course.
Yeah. So we're just still going true to like what has always been and what always can be. And it's always been legal. There's a difference between legal and lawful too, which not a lot of people know. That legal is the legal world. It's the world of commerce. So what we're doing is doing what's lawful, and we're operating as men and women instead of entities. So it's kind of interesting that when we create our private records, we're essentially all it is you're creating evidence of aliveness.
Yeah.
Which is kind of silly to say because obviously our flesh and blood is evidence of that aliveness. But if all we have is a birth certificate and that's all we're using as evidence, that's just evidence that we're a dead corporation.
Yes. So then everyone, like, as soon as you actually sign over that you have a birth certificate, you then become a dead corporation. I just want you to let that sink in. So everyone, all of us that are listening here probably all have a birth certificate, but actually means that we've got a dead corporation, which means that the government can actually essentially take any of our shit at any time, whenever they choose to, because they own it. They own our number, which is a tax file number, because we are a number in a system versus, and this was like the whole thing when I first started learning about this. I was like, I actually don't want the vibration. So also too, like, let's go into that, the vibration and the energetics, guys. You all know that this is my thing that I teach and live and stand by. The energetics of having a dead corporation. Imagine the energetics of that. So there is this huge matrix grid that we are born into that is in slavery, that is literally in fear, that is literally programmed to diminish your light so that you do not become the co-creator of your reality, which the matrix do not want you to know. You know, the people that are running this whole entire thing, the big pharma, the Illuminati, the guys that are creating this whole entire system, they are creating it so that people continuously stay stuck in this matrix grid. And then the bigger the matrix grid gets, the more people get absorbed and sucked into this self, and they all get lost in the self. That's why so many fucking people, or even like us, we were lost in their system for such a long time. Like, I didn't wake up until I was properly 25, and even now at 31, like, I have so much more awareness, but I'm still actually a part of the matrix grid. I think about 2 months ago paid for us to get we bought our birth certificates back. So we now have our birth certificates, but we're still a part of the fucking system because it's literally like, well, you would know, I don't know what it's like in America, but it's pretty hard to fully get out of the system here. I mean, we've set up lots of different pieces to be as private as we can, but then there's also, there's just so many little loopholes because we already have, well, not loopholes, sorry, there's already so many threads that have woven us down because we already are in the system, versus like Godwin and your babies and everyone that you're helping, they have a choice to be outside the matrix, to be outside this network of fear, of suffering, of just being a number. So it's so fucking cool. And of course my baby chose to do that. Of course he decided, he was like, Mom, I don't want to be in this fucking matrix. Like, of course.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool. So
yeah. Well, I love what you're saying about the energetics of it, because that really is the whole point of it. This is the purpose of this energetic contract, is to siphon our energy.
Yes.
Because really all money is a representation of our energy, where we put our energy, right? How do we spend our time? Do we trade our time for money? How, it's all that's all money is. And so when they actually back the national debt based on your future tax dollars, that's how all these countries are in debt.
Yeah, so much debt. And then the thing is like, they're probably never going to get out of this debt too, because they all just keep borrowing off each other. It's just like this big fuckery of a system. So like you were saying before, the system's perfect, but we just get to create our own. And it's so cool that more conscious families are waking up to the fact that there is actually a different way. And isn't it just so amazing that the children are leading it? Like, they're not even born yet, but they're leading it. Like, it's so...
Yes. So they know. They're fully aware of the slavery that's mainly mental slavery, because again, we don't have chains on our arms. This is mental slavery based on yeah, what are we going to pay in taxes? All of that. And so, yeah, I feel like there's, for me personally, if this is new information for those that are listening, there's a whole journey that you kind of get to go through of awakening. I want to say like anger of like, I don't know, first this awareness, and it can be frustrating. But there, to me, moving through it all, because you have to move through all the emotions first, is that it's not a bad thing when you finally can bring it to consciousness, because that's really all it is. Now I'm aware of what this contract is. Before I was ignorant of it and I had no idea. I was just letting the system siphon my energy. But now that I know what it is, that breaks the spell in itself. Your awareness.
Yes.
So it's not like you have to really do anything other than now I'm aware. Yes, there is like paperwork that you can do, but really I want to say sovereignty is first and foremost in your mind and your life and the way you live your life rather than the paperwork itself. Yeah. And the paper, it's the outsourcing of your authority. And suddenly too, when you can learn how to be the agent of your business and do it when it benefits you instead of just how it benefits the system, it's a whole new game. A whole new game. You're actually finally now seeing the entire monopoly board for what it really is. You're no longer like thinking you're a piece in the monopoly board, pass and go and collecting your $200. You're actually like, wow, whoa, I see this whole board now, and I actually know myself so deeply that I see where the banker is, and I can actually like grab the money and walk away whenever I want. Like that's how I know who I am, and now I can play the game.
Yes, I feel like I always speak in what I call codes. So the universe always has codes, and I believe there is this way of us being able to hack this system. Like I believe we're in a simulation. Do you believe we're in a simulation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I believe we're in this massive simulation. We've all come down, like we've all chosen a contract. We've come down here, and I do believe that there are NPCs, so people that are going to be non-playing characters. They're going to be asleep their whole entire life. Their soul isn't ready to wake up in this lifetime, and that's okay. But I truly believe we're all souls here to evolve at some level of consciousness. Some people are still going through like all the karmic debt and they're in this fuckery this whole entire lifetime, and that's okay. But for us that have chosen to have this huge awakening, this like once you become conscious to this shit, you cannot put your head in the sand anymore.
No, and you start noticing that everything will confirm that. Like for me, I was like, hey, this stuff is crazy actually, but I'm going to keep this, I'm going to put it on the shelf. Yeah. And I will test this theory. And so many things, once you start seeing how politicians speak, you start seeing the letters, you start like it's written all over the walls. And like you said, once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It all confirms everything.
Yeah. And it's like, for those of you who have had your awakening and there's a lot of you that listen to me and are here because you didn't get vaccinated and you are choosing different ways with your children, and like we want to create our own schooling system. We actually won't send our kids to school at 5 because we don't believe in it. 7 years old, we'll do a little bit of schooling that is like outside in nature, and that it'll work with their biology and how they actually learn, and it'll just be so different. And of course, as soon as they can start running businesses and have their entrepreneurial brain, they will do that. And so like Warren and I have been looking into even like schooling systems and how we educate and how we want to teach our children. And we want to create 5D school is what we want to call it. And it's like, there is just so many different ways now of being able to bring children up in this world. And it doesn't have to be through a system that has been like, I feel like it's been and done its time. And for us now that have become conscious, it's like we get to do things differently. And it's so funny. I remember I was telling my parents this. I was like, oh, I'm going to get Godwin out of the system. And of course, their first things were like, well, are you sure? Like, he's never going to be able to travel and he's never going to be able to do things. And like the fear response came up straight away. And then Dad was telling another, friends of ours, and then they were like, well, how's Godwin ever going to go to school? And then Dad's like, Nat's an entrepreneur. She'll just create her own school. And so then I'm like, yes, Dad. It's like there is this new way of us, because we do have money because we've been able to buy back our time. We've been able to choose sovereignty. We've been able to create a different pathway. We are able to then create legacy in a different way, or create the things that we need. So for me, I'm like, I'm just always going to create the things that my children need because I've been able to be this conscious, have this awakening, and just choose differently, which is so fucking cool. So then, babe, I want to go into, for you, when people on board with you, when they come into your world, what are the first negative things that they say that you kind of have to debunk?
Oh, great question. Well, first, that's a really great question.
I know,
Well,
like,
first, I would say the fear first is like, is this even legal?
yes,
You
yes.
know? So there's that. And then you start looking at even the codes for who actually do they require to register a baby, and what does registration mean? So you start looking at definitions. And I think the craziest part about my journey of diving through the legal world, like I said, is realizing that a legal document, how it all works is they create their own definitions to things. So you and I, we all think that certain words mean certain things based on standard definitions, but they have their own definitions. So we could be reading this document that says umbrella, and we're thinking it's the umbrella you use to go in the rain, but their definition for an umbrella is a blue pen that writes or whatever. So throughout this whole document, you're thinking it means one thing and it means something completely different.
Right.
So when you start looking even at codes and definitions, and that's what I encourage everyone to be doing, first I like to show families here in the United States, when you look up the code, I can't even remember the exact code, but it's who can be assigned a social security number. And it goes through, who can be assigned a social security number. You can be assigned a social security number if you are a United States citizen, if you blah, blah, blah. But what's so interesting is you is a hyperlink, and you can actually click on these words and what their definitions are. And the word you literally says an individual who owes a debt to the United States.
Oh my God!
So you start looking into these and it's like, oh my gosh, all the different ways, like it just starts leading you deeper and down the rabbit hole. And you start, like I said, you start reading these legal definitions, and you start reading the codes, because most of the time, like they taught us, you don't need to learn law. We have lawyers for that. You don't need to learn medicine. We have doctors for that. You don't need to learn taxes. There's tax, all these different ways that they've made us stop learning ourselves. And when you start just taking the reins and you start reading the freaking codes, it is right there. Okay. And the people that are required to register these babies are those with licenses. Okay. And that's how they trick us into this entire system, is they get these midwives and they get these doctors that have licenses, that have made a contract with the state. Okay. So the second you invite them to your birth, they are legally required to register that baby. But the man and woman that created and have this baby, there is no legal requirement to do so. But they tricked you by inviting the state to attend your birth. That's how they did it. So, you'll read things like who shall register the baby. They actually say shall. They shall. There is no requirement. There is no must unless it is the one with the license. So, and that's, again, you have to start seeing these words and seeing them, looking up every individual word instead of just reading a thing thinking like, oh, well, it says you must register. And you start digging deeper and it's like, well, who must register? Who, it's all these tricky ways. And it really is. You look at the system, it's like, that was so genius what they did.
Yeah,
First of all,
yes.
Yeah, getting these people to create contracts with the state. And then second, tricking men and women to think that that birth was a medical emergency in the first place. And now we're inviting these experts into our birth. It's like, who is more of an expert of birth than the woman giving birth?
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And so then what was your journey with Lotus birthing? I know you said obviously you were scrolling past Instagram and then you had it. What was it for you that was like, this is it, this has to be the way that I'm doing it?
Well, okay. So first, like I was saying, my baseline was like, hey, how did my pristine ancestors live? And I was just thinking, okay, if I were the first woman to get pregnant, and I get pregnant and I trust this process. This baby's growing and I birth this baby so divinely, so perfectly. And moments later, the placenta comes out. Do I suddenly believe that, oh, wait, this needs an intervention? Everything else was perfect. It was all divine. Or suddenly this one thing was done. No, it needs scissors. And I'm like, well, okay, if a baby's not born with scissors or a way to cut this thing, maybe it needs to stay attached.
Your thoughts. I love your inner dialogue, babe. I love this.
So, but really I would think, okay, so if I left this thing attached and a few days later it naturally fell off, I would just think, oh, it was always meant to be that way. Yeah. And the fact that it does naturally detach says a lot to me about the fact that we were born connected for a reason. Yeah. So, and then it started getting me kind of down a rabbit hole of like, when did we decide that it needed to be cut in the first place? Like, where did that whole idea come from? And you start doing all the research on that. Every study that's funded, every study that I've seen on why an umbilical cord needs to be cut is funded by people that make money off you believing that it needs to be cut. So anyway, it was just like, of course. And it's so funny because when I was going to college, like we learned research. You want to learn about like peer-reviewed studies and all these different things. The number one thing you should do when you're researching something first, before you even get into what kind of study it is look who funded the freaking study and what their special interests are. They don't teach you to do that when you're researching. And to me, that was like the key giveaway. Find me a study that was independently done that wasn't funded by some corporation that makes money by the placenta or from you being like fragmented and disconnected. Yeah, because it's a whole disconnection ritual is what it is. On top of the physical, I mean, sure, certainly it's physical, but it's like spiritual. The spiritual disconnection. There's a reason why it's like tradition for father to come in and cut the cord and all this stuff and what that does energetically to
oh my God, let's
mother,
talk about
baby.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. I have beliefs. Okay, this has just been my beliefs that the reason that in hospitals, actually, let me just rewind first. So, guys, one of my doulas actually said to me, "Do you want to burn the placenta, cut the placenta, or leave the placenta on?" And I was like, why would I cut it or burn it? I don't understand. Like I was like, I don't understand. And Warren's like, what does normal people do? And they were like, oh, but normal people like cut it. I'm like, you cut it. I was like, what the fuck? I had like this glitch in my mind. I was like, I don't understand. And then they're like, well, you can just leave it on. And I was like, we're gonna leave it on. That's what's gonna happen. Like I just couldn't even. The thought of doing it any other way, I was like, that just doesn't compute in my brain.
Yeah.
So then she's like, it's called a lotus birth. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So then I started researching lotus births and I'm like, there's actually not much information at all about lotus birth. It's like not a thing.
Yes. That was the same experience I had with so I was seeing a midwife, like I said. So I come to her, I'm like, I'm feeling really called to this. Yeah. So I'm hoping that there's people out there that can like guide me down this lotus birth because there's like hardly anything on the internet, like really nothing. My midwife was like, yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never known someone to do it. Like it's this like ancient thing that people talk about and no one knows. So that's actually why I was like, hey, well, I'm going to have to create this thing.
I honestly felt the same way. I was like, I'm going to have to create this thing. So we ended up, and like, I'm in postpartum, like so messy, babe, like I'm like, waking up every day, like when I've home birth, I'm still like in my little bubble, not wanting to get up and do things. Then I'm like, no, we're going to video this. I was like, Warren, get your fucking mics, get the fucking camera. We're videoing our lotus birth every single day. And
I love that you did that.
Yeah, and guys, I will do a podcast all about the lotus birth and we will put in videos, so it will be on our YouTube channel.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to share the crap out of that because I wish I had done that.
Oh, I did it for you. That's okay. We can help each other. Yes. Okay, cool. I will actually get the videos because, and I'm in my dressing gown and Godwin's like this tiny little baby. Oh my God. It was so special. And like, it's so funny. He knew when it fell off too. Like he was crying. And then all of a sudden I was just like, oh, the placenta's off. And we did this beautiful ritual. We buried it and we did this whole ceremony. It was gorgeous. It was amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, but it was also what he wanted, right? Like that's what he wanted. When I channeled him and I spoke to him, that's what he wanted. And so for those of you who are listening right now and you're like, oh, I can't channel or I don't know, like this is what we teach. This is what me and Warren teach. Me and Warren teach you how to channel. So we teach channeling. Veda teaches how to be sovereign. Together, we are the match, right?
Yes.
Like, we want you guys that are listening, new moms, to think differently, like look at different things. So yeah, another thing that we also did was like, we've got to figure out how we can start sharing this all over social media because it wasn't done. And then, of course, we saw that podcast that you did and we were like, oh my God, this chick's talking about it. So, like, you were the only person that we'd really heard about it. But even like TikTok, even Instagram Reels, like, it's just not a thing. So, it is something that I'd like to do is just like post more about it because I just feel like if more people knew that it was available or questioned if it was available or questioned if they could do it, then I think actually more people would. And then we saw, look, again, we did this, we went down the rabbit hole, man. So ADHD, autism, different disabilities, eczema, all of these things is because the placenta was cut too early and the stem cells didn't get to go, which means, of course, what happens? The fucking people that are running the world get to take the placenta and sell the stem cells and sell the placenta. And I was just like, oh my God, it is such a business. Like you were saying before, like the hospital system, it's a full fucking business. Like they are just here to make money off us. And yeah, and then it's like so funny. I heard another mama say to me earlier, she's like, oh, the government over here right now are giving you like $5,000 to have a baby. But I'm like, of course they are, because then they want you to go into their system because they'll probably earn triple the amount from your placenta. And then they'll be in their system and then they'll just buy. And I was just like, oh my God, this system is so wild.
Yes. Tell me, well, okay, I'm going to ask you because I love what's really interesting, I feel like, about Lotus Birth in particular is okay, so I have a lot of families that are like, okay, on board with free birth. They can get on board with the no birth certificate, but for some reason, Lotus Birth is like too much for them.
Really?
It's so interesting to me, and I don't know, after doing it, I'm like, there's no other way that I would ever do it,
Right.
But it's so interesting to me that that's like one thing that some people are just like, that's too much, and part of me feels like it's because just kind of that repetition trauma program that it's like, well, I was cut, I was fine, that's going to be the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm curious on what your thoughts are because that's one thing that I'm like, why is that too far for you? But
so what I think, so at the start when I said that to Warren, I was like, this is what I'm doing. He was like, isn't it going to be messy and isn't it going to be gross? And we have a dog who literally sleeps on a bed next to our bed. And he was like, what if Leo tries to eat it? And I was like, if Leo tries to eat it, we'll just tell him no and to go and sit in his bed. That to me was like an easy solution. But the other thing for me, I was like, will it be messy and will it stink? So we were like, oh my God, it's going to be messy and it's going to stink. But I was kind of like, well, I've just given birth. I'm going to be bleeding and I'm going to be in nappies anyway. And he's going to, we didn't have nappies on him for 2 weeks, I think. And like we knew that he was going to have black poo come out everywhere all the time. And we were going to have to clean that. We had puppy pads everywhere. So for me, I was like, we're just going to figure it out. Like, we'll just figure it out. And the funniest thing is, it did not stink at all. If anything, in a weird way, I actually loved the smell of it. I was like, this is so beautiful. And if this came out of me and like the salts and the flowers that you put on it. So just, okay, so for some context, everyone, it doesn't stink. It isn't gross. It is the most divine, the most pure, the most beautiful experience ever. And if anything, because I did so much research about the placenta, when I gave birth to the placenta, actually the video is, and we'll pop it into this YouTube link, I actually cry as much for the placenta as I did for Godwin because I realized that the placenta grew Godwin. Like Godwin wouldn't be here without the placenta. So I have so much absolute gratitude for the fact that the placenta actually is the reason I have a baby. Like, if anything, we should be putting our placentas on stages with crowns and bowing to the placenta. Like, it is so incredible. And I don't know what your thoughts are about this, about eating the placenta, but I personally was like, I don't want to eat the placenta because for me, I'm like, why would I eat something that grew my baby? like the energetics is weird to me that people eat their placenta. I mean,
Yeah.
guys, I'm not judging anyone right now that has done that. I'm not judging anyone. However you do your birth and however you do life, babes, I love you, and that is amazing in your choice. And for me personally, I was like, why would I eat something that grew my baby that really, and I believe that there is a spirit guide also attached to the placenta. There is a guide that is there for the rest of their life. I believe that we should be honoring this process and giving it back to the earth so that when Godwin is in strife, when he's feeling lost, or when he's feeling down, he can go and connect back to Mother Gaia, and he can go back to the roots of the placenta is the tree of life. It's come here to be a source of how he lived. It's now going back into the earth so it can be back there. And so for us, our belief was like, you know, whenever he's stuck, or whenever, like, this is part of the ceremony that we did, was whenever Godwin's feeling lost or confused or stuck or whatever, he can go back and ground on Mother Gaia because his placenta's back there and we've given it back down to her. And it's like, yeah, the first things that came up for Warren was like, oh, it's going to be messy and all these things. And then actually when we had your bag, so guys, when we have the placenta, you put herbs. Firstly, we actually didn't even wash it. So I know some people wash it. As soon as it came out of me in the birth pool, we put it in a bowl. And so I had Godwin on me and the bowl. Then I transferred Godwin to Warren and he had the bowl while my doulas got me up, washed me down, and they put me in bed. And then Warren walked Godwin up to me. I then started feeding Godwin. And actually, that was a whole journey. Feeding didn't happen straight away, but had Godwin on me. And I was just looking at the placenta and I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And same thing, I didn't want my doulas to even touch the placenta or anything. I wanted it just to be me and Warren. So Warren bought me the salts. And I actually think we all slept and then ate. And then that night, so I gave birth at 9:11 a.m. in the morning. I think that late night I ended up salting it and then putting it in the puppy pad to then put in a bag. And guys, the bag is so small. For us, the placenta was actually only as big as my whole hand. And Godwin was only two sizes of my hand. So the placenta bag just sat underneath Godwin. So whenever he was sleeping, it was just next to him. Whenever I was holding him, I would hold him and feed him and then have the placenta underneath it. And it was actually just such a natural, for me, it was just so natural. It was just so the knowing of like, of course, this is how we're doing things. It wouldn't be any other way. And even I know with our second baby, it'll be the same thing. Like, although we're going to have Godwin potentially running around, I know that he will respect the placenta. And the fucking wildest thing is, of course, our dog is a spiritual dog, but Leo, our dog, was so polite. Like, he sat in his bed the whole time, wherever the placenta was. Like, even if I had Godwin and the placenta down for 2 seconds on the bed, our dog did not come anywhere near the placenta. He was like, Mum, I know this has just come out of your body, and I know that this baby's just come out of your body. This is all you. And like, our beautiful dog, he's sitting right next to me right now. Oh my God. He was just so precious. And so he just knew. He was like, this is your thing completely. Even like giving birth, like he knew. He was around the whole time, but he did not intervene. He did not bark once. And like, I'm like full force, like, we live on 10 acres. We've got a lot of land. And I still thought that the neighbors might have came in. That's how loudly I was roaring. And Leo did not bark the whole time. Now, he's a barky little dog. And like, he just knew the whole time, like, Mum's in ceremony right now. Let's just surrender to her. And it was just like the perfection of like the order of how fucking amazing life is. The placenta is just so beautiful. So I can't believe more people don't do it. I don't actually know anyone personally other than you that has done a Pilates birth. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I feel like you know me.
I know, it's like you do it and you're like, there's no other way. But people do get so used to like the convenience or thinking like, well, this is going to be so, it's very intuitive. A lot of people worry about the pets too. And your pets are so intuitive. They are so reverent to it. And it's so interesting because a lot of people too, they say, well, animals in the wild, they eat their placentas. So that's where a lot of people come to this conclusion of eating the placenta.
Yeah.
And we have to think, I think the reason you do things also comes from the lens you see things through, right? So if you're seeing it through that perspective, I started even asking myself that question. I'm like, well, why do animals eat their placenta? Is it because they're worried about postpartum depression? Is it because they're worried about losing minerals or whatever that we are doing? You know, all these different things are not the reason why we're eating the placenta.
Hilarious.
They actually eat their placenta because they are keeping their babies safe from predators.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not the reason why we would, you know? So when I started seeing it in this lens of just like you were saying, like ancient cultures actually see the placenta as an entity that brings your baby in. They are kind of the guides that bring them in. They're birthed with your baby, and although the placenta physically dies and the baby continues on, that connection never ends. This entity is essentially kind of their spirit guide, their spirit guardian that's always advocating for them in the invisible realm. And you think it's kind of funny that we're all born and we have this like fear of death, and we have these fears, and that's because we've been cut off from that connection. Right? So if we came in with that connection still intact, would we be afraid of what is on the other side? But this entity, just like you said, it resembles the tree of life and all of these things buried in the ground in reverence. And this energy, that energy is the one that also ushers them into the next transition. So to always have that knowing and always having that connection is so important. Just for me, seeing that lens of, this placenta is your baby's life force.
Yes.
So, of course, if you eat it, you're going to have a boost of energy because you're actually consuming your baby's life force. And is that mine or is it my baby's? Yeah. I think that's kind of where people get confused too, is like my placenta is like, that's not my placenta. That's my baby's placenta.
Yes.
And I felt like they deserved not only to have all the benefits of the stem cells in the blood and all the benefits physically, but also spiritually too. And of course, there's some magic. There's a million different magical things about the placenta. But one thing that is really cool is when mothers do hemorrhage, if that is a thing within their birth, you can put a piece of placenta within like your cheek and it stops. So it is one of those things where I feel like if your baby, okay, backing up a little bit too, if you're having like a really like gentle birth, a lot of the things that women need the placenta for aren't necessary. If you're, you know, having that gentle birth, you don't have the postpartum depression, all those different things. Hemorrhaging too generally is caused by something. But if you needed that placenta for something, you know your baby is more than happy to give up their life force for their mother. They love their mother more than anything. And they're like, yes, they're willing to give that to them. But if you don't need to take that, shouldn't your baby have all the benefits? That's kind of where my thoughts were on.
Yes, babe. Well, we were the exact same, and you know, so we didn't just go in and free birth and just be like, oh, yep, we're just gonna push out a baby and have no one. We did so much rewiring. So kind of like you were talking about before, we did lots of ancestral work. We looked at both of our birth stories. We also looked at like, what is the fear that we have? So like my sister-in-law, her first time, she had a really scary birth. And then also she's just home birthed right now with no intervention.
Amazing.
So if you're listening to this, sister-in-law, I love you so much. And then, yeah, like his sister had a really, really bad one as well. So it was like we both had people close to us have really bad birthing experiences. But then once we learnt about how the hospital system, they have to try and correct themselves when they fuck up, which is what most traumatic births are. It's just this hospital system's fucked themselves up, so they've got to intervene on interventions versus like the mother actually just trusting herself the whole time. When we are doing all this mindset work to then have the free birth, one of the things that we also went through was what would happen if, I love it, I can hear the kids in the background. It's beautiful. I love it, babe. Let it be. We're mission-led mamas here, babe. We're doing it all. We're doing the mama stuff and we're doing mission. It's perfect. All the other mamas,
they all came home, so yeah.
We get it. Mums, we get it. Beautiful. So one of the things that we really looked at was like, okay, what happens if I start bleeding? And then I remember the birth keeper actually said to me, we'll just take a little bit of the placenta and put it in your mouth. And I was like, what? And I was like, wow, our placentas just know. Like, that's how divine our fucking bodies are. We, like, if we just trusted our body so deeply and we trusted everything that came with the baby, and there was no intervention, like, one of the things that I realized was, like, the reason men cut the cord is because that's then I believe the masculine being like, actually, no money's going to come and just flow to you. No money's going to come and flow to you. The masculine is it's going to be hard your whole life. I'm cutting you off from the source of masculinity, which is being held and strength. And like, that's my own belief of it anyway. What is your thoughts on actually the placenta being cut by the masculine?
Well, it makes sense because you just think that, like, we essentially have a lot of different reasons. I feel like the masculine's been cut because the connection between mother and baby is also that connection.
Yeah.
So it's not only like you're interfering kind of between this innate connection between mother and baby, but also baby and self. So, you know, it's not, they don't call it a gut feeling for no reason. We have these meridian circuits, right, that run through our bodies. And that circuit also runs through the placenta. I don't know if you've ever read the book, Placenta, the Forgotten Chakra.
Yes, yeah, we read that back to front, upside down. But then they also,
So good, right?
then that book also promotes eating your placenta. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I loved all the whole 3/4, the 3/4 of it I love, but then the last bit I'm like, why is it promoted? But anyway, the whole, otherwise the ceremony of, like, every ancient culture basically burying it and doing a ceremony, we loved that. But then it's still like, if you want to eat your placenta, you can. I'm like, that's fucking.
Which is, I did find that really interesting too, because it goes into this whole thing on, like, placenta trauma and all that. It's like, anyway, I'm with you there.
Okay, we always do it. I'm like, well, that's weird. We should write a placenta book. That's what also another thing I thought. If I had all the time in the world, this would be another thing I'd do.
But anyway, this like connection between mother and baby, it's so interesting because as you grow and you keep that, when mother and father are keeping that connection protected with this fierce protective mechanism, right? Like mothers and babies, like your baby can be 50 years old and you can feel them on the other side of the world. Like your connection seriously is that strong with your baby when you keep that connection. And I feel like that's the reason why they energetically want fathers coming in and what that does energetically. And I do also want to preface this as like the connection to mother and baby is so strong. And if you were a mother that disconnected, that energetically can always be reconnected, just so you know. So that's not like that's a what it's been done, it can't be undone. Everything can, but first it's the awareness of what happened so that then it can be healed, you know? So I just like hear moms that say that and they're like, oh no, I messed up and I did all the things wrong. And it's like, nothing can't be healed. So.
And in the spirit realm, guys, it's as simple as, for me, when I first started learning about this, I was like, oh my God, I want to connect back to my placenta guide. And then I realized, so I teach spirit guides, the guide that has been with you your whole entire life. So we've always got one spirit guide that's been with us our whole entire life. That is the spirit guide from the placenta. Like, it is so, so, so beautiful. So with that, my love, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your knowledge, for doing your mission here on this earth. Like, I'm so, so, so blessed and grateful that we got to connect and even just like start a friendship, because I truly believe what you're doing on the other side of the world, what I'm doing, it's like we're almost like in collective mission together.
Yes, so, 1,000%.
So beautiful soul fam that are listening to this right now, all my mamas that are listening to this right now, you can A, buy your birth certificates back, and B, you can actually have sovereign babies. And right now Veda is working with one Australian family. We're also about to start working with her and about to go through the whole process. So once that works for us, and we're gonna test it in Australia. Once it works for us, then me and Veda will be working together to help everyone so that everyone can do this. So stay tuned. For those people that want to find you, we will obviously put all your details down below. But how can people find you, babe?
Yeah, so I'm definitely most active on Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, veda.revival. And then my website, vedarevival.com. And I'm on YouTube a little bit, but I'm not as active. But definitely the social media, Instagram is definitely where I'm most active. But you can always find me on my website and contact me through there too. So Yeah.
Yay. Thank you for being on. Thank you for coming. Thank you, babe. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If this has helped you, please go and share this, like it, and all the things. I love you, mamas. Go and be amazing.